Now that we've gotten the sense structure sorted out, now we can begin to look at some of the mid-level error reports. So here we see two that have a significant number of errors, 61 and 50, and if this were a larger database, they would be much larger. And then there's one more that has only 3. We're going to save that for a little bit later. Let's deal with one of these. Now, I'm going to choose DE just because I know what it's like. It doesn't matter what order you choose them in. I think the XV is going to reveal some other things. So let's start with the simpler one. And you wouldn't know that. I've previewed the data, so I'm going to choose the one that I have discovered is simpler. So let's click on DE, and we can see what's going on. So in this entry, there are 2 DE fields right next to each other. There's 1 GE and 2 DEs. And so the question is this supposed to be another sense, or is it supposed to be concatenated with the DE that's there? Now, when this happens, there are several things we can do. We can start by just trying to make a good guess, but we would never make a guess without leaving a note. Or we could just make a new sense. In any case, we are going to want to leave a note. So the gloss is last. The first definition is tail or late, and the other one is in the end. Now that actually does seem like sort of if tail and late are the same meaning, same sense, in the end could be part of that same meaning. Now if tail and late were separate, I could see this being part of one or the other. So for this one, first I'm going to make my note field so that I don't forget. I'm going to leave a note to say that I did something. And I do feel like I need to make a choice. I either need to treat it as a separate sense or I need to combine it. And either way, I am making a lexicographical decision. And normally the import specialist shouldn't do lexicography. But in the interest of keeping the project moving, we need to do something. If we had to stop and ask the linguist every time we encountered something like this, it would take forever, and neither the linguist nor we would be happy with that. So I'm going to say that I merged in the end into the tail late definition. And I could say check to let them know that it should be checked. Okay, so then if I want to combine them, I can simply start backspacing, and that will put it there, and I'll put a comma, and there it is. Maybe I'll put a space to separate it a little bit more. Anyway, so I have just combined them, but I left a note so that someone in the future can review whether that was correct or not. So that's one thing we can do, is merge them. Let's move forward. Now again, there are 2 DEs. Now in this case, there actually are sense markers, so it looks like the linguist was thinking about different senses, so maybe they did intend for this to be combined. And provision is a bit more distance of a meaning than there's gratis and for nothing, which are basically the same. Person who gives, it's related. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and combine them. If I were to make it a separate sense, then I would change sense 2 to be sense 3. That is one option I could do. Let's look at the next one. Now here, the second DE is between example sentences. So let's look more carefully. So this is do put, do become for the gloss and the definition. Those are kind of similar. And there's reversals that go with each one. And there's an example sentence. To be born sounds kind of like become. And then we have a definition, set up, and the example is to set up the door. So actually, it does seem like it's a different meaning, and the example goes with the different meaning. So in this case, I'm simply going to make it be a new sense. Now, I could put an SN, and actually, I do want to do that because I do want to get the sense number in there, and I will go ahead and put an empty GE. I don't need to, So let's come up here, and I can actually delete the plus, and that will in fact make this marker real, and I want that to have a 1. So I've done that because it's one thing if there is no sense number when there's only one sense. But when there's more than one sense, it is crucial for there to be a sense number. Later on in the import process, you probably will be double checking cross-references. And for that, having the sense numbers matters. So I inserted SN2 and the GE. I made that one real and put SN1. I'm going to save this. And now it all parses out. So that's another thing you can do. You could create another sense, but you want to be really careful and look at it. This one I'm not going to make a note about it because I feel pretty confident. So it's kind of a judgment call when you make a note or not. Let's look at the next one. Okay, so in this one, the GE is skull or bald or top, and the definition is skull or bald or top. But then we come down here, we have some examples, and then we have another DE that also says bald. Okay, our existing DE says bald, among other things. So to me, this just looks extra. So I am simply going to delete it. So that's another option. So I've done 3 things so far. 1 is I merged with an existing definition. 2, I explicitly made it a separate sense. And 3, I deleted the extraneous one because all the information was already there. So there's a number of things that you could do. And again, you need to be careful. But in this case, again, because the information was already there, I feel comfortable not leaving a note. So I will move forward. Okay, so here the gloss is handle, the definition handle of a basket or shoulder belt. These look different. So again, let me make this one be explicit and give it a sense number 1. And I will insert sense 2 and a blank GE. And I will do save. And I wouldn't have to put in the GE since I have the explicit SN. The only reason for the blank GE was to infer one, and I'm not inferring it, but it just feels more complete. So I could go on. I think you get the idea. Okay, let me look at this one because there's an example. So here, the first meaning is yes, and the second meaning is interdiction, and I'm not even sure I know what interdiction is, and much less I don't know what interdiction flowers are. So this does seem quite different from yes. So I am going to put in the sense 2. I will change this one to have sense 1. You can do it in either order, but I got rid of the plus. Let me click on save. But the concern here is the example. Okay, so originally there was only one sense. This example is something about a kind of enchanter, and I don't know if that relates to an interdiction or yes, I don't know. So this example might have gone with either sense. So in this case, I am going to put a note. I will put it after the example, but I could have put it before the example. I just need it to be in the sense somewhere. So let's put my import note, and I will say, does this example go with sense 1 or sense 2? So that gives some clue about what they're supposed to check. So let me click save. So again, if you're splitting something into separate senses and there's an example and you don't know which sense it went, be sure to leave a note. Let me go to the next one. Now, for the sake of time, I'm simply going to let Solid do my work for me. There's 61. I'm not going to go through all those in the video. I am going to cheat, and I'm going to say that DE can infer an SN. And that is a legitimate thing to do. It's not necessarily cheating, but what I would want to do, I might run through a whole bunch of them really fast without making any changes and say new sense, new sense, new sense, new sense. If I figure out that all of them should be a new sense, then I will come here and I will change this to have it infer. Now, in this case, if I'm having solid do it, let me go ahead, click yes, I'll click save and do a recheck. What was that one that I was on? Let me search for rill. Okay, this is the one I was on, fence ditch, rill ditch drain. Okay, I could leave a note because I don't know which, these meanings are kind of similar. Okay, so we need two kinds of notes. One is, should they have been separate senses? And the other one is, which sense does the example go with? So I am going to go to my nifty notepad document where I've been recording what I have done, and I will add another to-do note, to-do, add to the Ask Linguist letter. There are places I inferred a new sense. Should they be two senses or one? And which sense should the example go with? Now, this doesn't tell them which entries this applies to, because with bulk edit, you could put a mark in it. Here, I don't have a way of putting a mark in them. I could do something in Notepad, or I could just say they need to do it for everything with two senses. There's a number of things you could do. I'm not going to specifically address how to do it, but if there were 873 or 3,000, it would be really nice to mark these to differentiate them from the ones that have two senses and you weren't the one that created the second sense. But anyway, I won't go into that now, but I've made a note for myself, and I inferred that. And when I did my recheck, now there's no more complaints about DE. Now, you really, with 60, you may want to go through one by one and address each one of them. But for our purposes, at least I've gotten rid of the DE errors. So I will stop at that for now.